Okay, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Gene Colters, presiding member for today's meeting. I will open the meeting at 1:03 p.m. and in doing so, I acknowledge we're hosting this meeting on the traditional land of the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation. We acknowledge the Aboriginal people as the traditional custodians of Western Australia. Pay respects to elders past and present and the ongoing connection between people, land, waters and community. The meeting will be run in accordance with that Standing Orders 2024 under the Planning and Development Assessment Panel's Regulation 2011. The meeting is being recorded and live streamed on the DAP website in accordance with Regulation 42A of the Planning and Development Assessment Panel Regulation 2011. And members are reminded to announce their name and title prior to speaking. During the meeting, panel members may refer to technical devices throughout the meeting to assist them in considering information before them. I'll introduce members of the panel for Part B. We have Councillor Bronwyn Smith and Councillor Sonnet Coetzee from the City of Wanneroo. To my left, I have Francesca Lafanti, Deputy Presiding Member, and Karen Hyde, Specialist Member. For Part C, we'll have Councillor Charlie Zanino from the City of Swan. Item 2 on the agenda is apologies. I have apologies from Councillor Rod Henderson, City of Swan, Councillor Jennifer Catalano, City of Swan, and Councillor Dave Knight, City of Swan. Item 3, members on leave of absence. That's Councillor Rod Henderson. Item 4, noting of minutes. They are all available on the DAP website for previous meetings. Part B of the agenda, City of Wanneroo. We have a declaration of due consideration. So could all panel members raise their hand, noting that they've duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part B of the agenda and Part B related information.
My hand is raised.
Thank you, Councillor. It's unanimous. Disclosures of interest I have done at this time, and I'll ask if any of the members have any additional declaration at this point. If not, councillors, was the item considered at a council meeting? No. Okay. Well, then we can move on to the item, which is item 3.1 for childcare premises on Quinns Road, Mindarie, numbers 62 and 64. We do have a presentation from Mr. Tony Watson from MW Urban, and I will remind Mr. Watson that he has 3 minutes to make his presentation. Mr. Watson.
Presiding member, deputy presiding member, specialist member, councillors and staff. Good to see you all today and thank you for the opportunity to speak. My name is Tony Watson and I am the applicant for the subject proposal. Also present today with me on my right hand side is Rory Hindle. Rory is one of the directors of the Atlantis Childcare Group. Before speaking in relation to the proposal before you, I'd like to touch on Atlantis. The Atlantis Childcare Group is a highly reputable, award-winning provider of childcare services in the City of Wanneroo. At present, Atlantis has childcare premises in Banksia Grove, Ocean Keys, Lansdale, with an additional 2 centres in Yanchep. With respect to the subject proposal, our communications with the City of Wanneroo commenced in November 2024. Since first engaging, we've worked closely with the City to meet its expectations for the land and the location. The City has provided solid guidance along with fair and reasonable support where a number of design considerations have popped up along the way. Specifically, we have provided additional information on the extent to which the subject land and proposed use will sit lower than the 3 residential dwellings adjoining to the south. Work to ensure the interface with the single house adjoining to the west is appropriate, and incorporated the advice and recommendations of the city's DRP member, who executed a rigorous assessment of the proposal. On the basis of the work undertaken, the proposal before you is conclusively supported by the city's technical staff. Most recently used as a place of worship, the development application provides for the repurpose, renovation and reuse of the existing built form on the subject land. The approach has always been to ensure what takes place represents a good fit. Where the future use is concerned, the typical one, being childcare, considered more appropriate based on classifications in the zoning table contained in the city's DPS2. The proposal is also generally compliant with the city's local planning policy dealing with childcare proposals. Most importantly, and in addition to assisting with the demand for childcare places in the proposed location, the design and development of the project has been informed by a strong desire to create a positive environment and amenity for the children using the premises, their families and carers, as well as those caring for the children on site. With respect to the RAR, therefore, we support both the city's assessment and recommendations to this DAP and respectfully request that the DAP grant approval to the application.
Thank you, Mr. Watson. Panel members, I invite questions of the presenter. Councillors? Other panel members? Yes, Karen.
Thank you. Hi, speaking. Any of the ground levels to be modified from what they are at the moment for this, particularly around the very tall retaining structure walls?
Where the Undercroft car parking is positioned on the western side of the land, there is a cut taking place there, and that does back up to the retaining wall.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's sufficiently set back, and I can confirm that distance from that wall if there's a concern in relation to its integrity. That's what's informed.
It was just a question, and I'll refer to the city as well. Second question, was there any consideration given to the location of the upper level play deck, which is next to that neighbour on the other side of the lot? Obviously, there's just an area for utilities, I think, and no residential development. Was there any consideration of which side that upper level player should go? Is it a question of different levels?
I think what has informed the location of the upper level play deck is what was on the site originally. So we've been through the process of amalgamating what was two titles in the first instance, and it's the reuse or repurposing of the place of worship and the car parking associated with that that informs the entry point into that level, and then everything works seamlessly across that same finished level to the play space which sits above the undercroft. So it was essentially the existing situation that reflected what played out with Swan.
Okay, thank you. And my last question is around the acoustics reporting. Did the acoustic consultant have at hand the design for the play area when looking at noise emissions?
Absolutely, they did, yes. And subsequent to the initial assessment and reporting by that consultant, there were changes made to that aspect of the project to ensure that it is fully compliant. So where the play space is concerned, there are elements that are incorporated in that with a view to ameliorating noise transfer. Where that does take place, it would project in a northerly direction, not to the south side, including where that substantial retaining wall is that you've referred to previously.
Actually, I do have one other. The fencing on the western elevation, which is next to that neighbour, has got multiple different materials. It looks like there's limestone block, there's timber, there's perspex. Have you had any discussions with that adjacent neighbour about the materiality of that particular fence?
No, there haven't been direct communications with that person, but it's my understanding, based on what's shown on plan, is that it sits inside the existing fence line.
Okay.
But there is, and then there's what's happening on the common boundary inside where this proposal is concerned, and then the balance is set back.
Inside the property of the childcare lot.
Correct.
Okay.
Yes, set back off that boundary to enable that space, that setback area to be planted out.
All right, lovely. Thank you for that. No further questions from me.
you.
Councillor Coetzee, sorry, just has her hand up virtually.
Okay, Councillor Coetzee, you've had your hand up for a while, I presume?
Yes, sorry, I do have one question. I think this is most probably a question for the city. The traffic calming devices on Quinns Road, when will that be installed?
city's just finished advertising to the residents on that road. I think it's projected in the next financial year.
Thank you.
Okay, I've probably got a follow-up on that. Whereabouts are they to be located, those devices, council staff? There's a bend as you come through. You're on mute at the moment.
So we're just pulling up the plan to see exactly where those traffic calming devices will go on the road. I don't believe they're going in front of the childcare premises though. Near the intersections?
Yeah.
They will be located near the intersections on that road. So not in front of the development.
How far east and west?
Sorry, I'm just having a look at the engineering plans here, see exactly where. So, if you just bear with me a moment.
Are they in the agenda?
No.
I didn't see them.
Where's
On
this?
the location plan, if you're, are you able to highlight them there, or are they not on that plan?
Yeah. Bear with us one moment, sorry.
Perhaps while you're looking for that, I'll see if anyone else has a question of the presenters, and we'll get back to you on that one. Yes.
Francesca Lafanti, I have a question both to presenters and it's to city officers as well. The TIA talks about a variety of things, but it doesn't speak to sight lines and visibility. I note from being out on site that as you come essentially from the east, and there is a pretty free-flowing, the roundabouts allow you to take them essentially at a reasonable speed, and there is a reasonable amount of movement with the school and the super clinic, etc. My comments relate to sightlines, visibility and slowing. Essentially, as I came around the bend, the site is pretty much on you as you come around that bend. So I'm interested about what the TIA, whether they assessed it and what was there, because it's not in the TIA I've got in front of me, what further information you can provide in relation to the safety and visibility in both staff, but particularly the parent or the other people who are attending the site on that road, noting that it's a pretty straight run further down.
In response, I can advise that the conversation in pre-lodgement communications with the city centred around a number of things. One of those, foremostly, and it related to the amalgamation of the land, was the ceding of a portion of the land in front of the existing place of worship to the city. And so that will no longer be part of the land that is currently owned by the Landers Property Group, so Childcare Group, sorry. So the land will be ceded to the city. I do know that the following conversations associated with that reflected on ensuring that the car parking where that road widening was taken was appropriately set back. And if I recall correctly, there has been a dispensation where setbacks are concerned, a very small one, noting that the road widening there is, and it provides somewhat of a gap between the carriageway and the land that will be the childcare centre itself. I do know also that where the landscape consultant is concerned, that the plantings that were to take place in the city's road reserve was such or needed to be of a type and species that ensured that sightlines, etc., were maintained. So I might refer to the city to see if they've got anything further in that regard. But I think given that the land the seeding that's to take place. And that land is sort of being removed from the development application land per se. But the city in its assessment was happy with what was presented.
Thank you. Thank you. I will have a second question on similar vein to city officers, which includes both the comments that you've raised about traffic calming location, as well as purpose of that portion of land being ceded, as well as any other information relevant to road movement, given my earlier comments. Thank you.
Okay, does anyone else have questions of the presenters? If not, I'll open up questions of the council staff. Maybe they have the answer to my question. Where are the calming devices going?
Yes, thank you for giving us time to look into that. So just having a look at the plans, the closest traffic calming, basically a speed hump along the road to the west, is about 150 metres to the west of the development, just before Simpson Road.
Okay, so I think the issue was traffic coming from the east. Okay, I'll leave that. Thank you.
Yep.
Any other?
So, yeah, can I clarify? When you say just before Simpson Road, are you saying just before travelling from the east or just before travelling from the west? So is it which?
It is on the eastern side of Simpson Road.
Okay, so just on the bend as you come around, there's traffic calming.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions of the staff? Councillor Coatsy? Can't see
I have
you.
no questions. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Karen?
In connection then, and just following on from that line of questioning, condition 21, which refers to the ceding of that land, it actually says Queen's Road is to be widened in accordance with the approved plans. But you're really only talking about the transfer of land, are you? Not the actual works to the road construction?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. In terms of my earlier question around the retaining walls along two of the boundaries of the site, they're quite substantial and would appear to provide some structural support to the properties, the residential properties adjoining this lot. The applicant has stated that there may be some cutting in to the western side, I think the applicant said. Do you see there being a need for any lapidation survey work? Is that something that you would normally request as part of the construction management plan, or are you satisfied that there is no need for such a thing?
City is satisfied that we don't need a dilapidation report or a record of the status of the property surrounding the development. The applicant is required to go through the building application process. Through that process, they're required to be certified by a building surveyor and have relevant engineering drawings to make sure that there isn't any undermining in the surrounding properties.
Thank you for that answer. A further question, if I may. Some of the submissions from the community talked around antisocial behaviour and the potential for that. Have you had a look at the plans? Are you comfortable that adequate SEPTED measures have been taken? Is there a need for any further work in that respect?
So the city, in its assessment, referred the application to the a panel member on the design review panel. They would review that against the State Planning Policy 7.0, which has safety included in that. They didn't raise any concerns in relation to the SEPTED principles incorporated into the development. From the city's point of view, we're comfortable with the development.
Thank you for that answer. My last question is, would you ordinarily seek an operational management plan for a childcare centre of this scale in a residential development area?
Yes, Yep, we would generally ask for an operational management plan to be submitted where we feel that the conditions of approval don't already cover the operational requirements of the childcare centre.
All right, so follow up to that, there isn't such a request or a condition in this particular recommendation. Are there aspects that you would seek an operational management plan to cover?
No, not in this case. So the conditions the city's applied or recommended, I think adequately detail the operational management of the site with respect to noise and operation and parking.
All right, thank you for that. No further questions from me.
Thank you. Okay. No further questions of the officers or presenters?
Just one.
Yes.
To the officers, following up my previous question, are you satisfied from a technical perspective that site visibility on that road is appropriate for the location of the crossovers relative to the scale and type of development?
Yes, so our the application was supported by obviously our traffic team. They review the site distances to bends to the crossovers, and they were satisfied with the development as
Thank you very much. If there are no further questions of the presenters or staff, then we can move into discussion on the item. So I will read the recommendation as presented in the responsible authority report. Do I have a mover? Karen Hyde. Seconder. Karen, you speak to the item, please.
Thank you. I'm comfortable with this application for childcare premises in this location, and I'm comfortable with the recommendation that the city officers have put forward and the responses that they've given to my questions. I don't believe that I wish to make any further amendments to that recommendation. As far as the application goes, I note that it is consistent with the planning framework, with the district planning scheme and the local planning policy 2.3. It's a discretionary use. Any discretion requested I find to be of a minor nature. There is a one bay parking shortfall, which I'm quite comfortable will not cause any undue impact. I note that the street and the rear boundary setbacks are perhaps non-compliant, but I think given the changes of level, there's no issue there with privacy and overlooking for either the children and staff in the facility or for the adjoining residents. The street setback is adequate, and I think the materiality has taken into account, and also the scale of the development, albeit very linear, is suitable for the residential area, has pitched roofs and variety in the materiality. I note that there is a requirement from the DRP to look at some coastal palette colours, and obviously a condition that would have the city review that palette of materials at the time that you are ready for that. There's adequate vegetation. I'm not a big fan personally of AstroTurf. Perhaps you want to have a look at that, but it's not particularly sustainable or great for small children's knees and elbows. But that aside, that's not a reason at all for having any issue with a conditional approval. So I'm comfortable to leave it there, presiding member.
Thank you, Karen. Francesca.
I also support the proposal. Again, it is based on the material we've received, the documentation from applicant, as well as attendance to the site. The proposal from my perspective is consistent with the planning framework. Some minor variations are appropriate in the context of this site, as well as the adaptation and expansion of an existing built form, a very wide frontage, which provides a lot of opportunities on the site in terms of both its design, layout and movement, both vehicle movement and service movement. The information provided today from both applicant and the city has addressed the concerns that I had regarding the uniqueness of the condition of the road and the movement on the road in terms of visibility to the site and safety of that movement. I'm comfortable that based on the material we've been provided, it is appropriate in the context of this proposal. I've already indicated the scale of the is appropriate in the context of its site. I have no other concerns regarding this development, and the minor variations are supportable.
Thank you. Councillors, do you wish to speak to the item?
Nope.
No. Councillor Coetzee, sorry, was that you saying no?
Yes, that was me. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Well, I will support the application. I won't go through the details, which my colleagues on the panel have already mentioned, other than to say that the repurposing of an existing building is good to see. So therefore, I'll pass it back to the mover for closing.
Happy to go straight to vote.
Okay. All right. Well, let's go to the vote on this item. All those in favour?
I am in favour.
Okay, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay, well, I thank councillors and staff from the City of Wanneroo for participating in the meeting today. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Keep well.
See you next time. Bye.
Thank you.
Okay, we now move to part C of the agenda, City of Swan. In doing so, welcome Councillor Zanino for your attendance.
Thank you.
Okay. I will now ask all council or panel members to let me know that they have duly considered all of the documentation contained within Part C of the agenda and Part C related information by raising your hand. That is unanimous. Thank you very much. No declarations of interest from anyone else? No. Councillor Zanino, was the item discussed at council? Okay. All right. Well, moving on to the item for Industry General Workshop and Incidental Offices in Warren Road in Ballsbrook. We have two presenters, Mr. Nick Hidding and Heidi Herget from Move Consultants and Hidding Planning. Mr. Hidding, we can see you. At this stage, we can't hear you. You have 3 minutes for your presentation, which we have all had previously.
Thank you, presiding member, and good afternoon, panel members and City of Swan staff. Thanks for the opportunity to speak today. My name is Nick Hidding, Hidding Urban Planning, acting for Paramount Earth Moving in the proposed Industry General and Office Development 63 Warren Road in Ballsbrook. We've had the opportunity to review the RAR, note the recommendation for approval, which we support. We thank the City for its assessment. Approving this project will bring about a brand new development to this part of Ballsbrook and hopefully be a catalyst for other new development in the precinct. The project has been supported by the design review panel with 9 out of 10 green supported principles confirmed. In reviewing the conditions, we're generally comfortable with everything. However, we'd like to have a bit of a discussion about condition 4 and 5. In my submission, we sought for condition 5 to be reconsidered on the basis of the existing road classification and the demand of the development. As Heidi will clarify in her presentation, from a technical perspective, it may not be necessary to do the road upgrade requirements of condition 5. And it's condition 4, which requires the payment of infrastructure contributions in the DCP. However, what we've considered since, and after speaking with the City this morning, is that if the client chooses to undertake some of those road works, then we would seek for the cost of that work to be credited against the developer contribution requirement of condition 4. The city has said yes, but we want that confirmed in the condition. The developer contribution, we understand, is quite a significant amount of money. So it may be more beneficial to the owner as well as other landowners in the area for the road upgrades to be done by us rather than waiting for the money to be paid through the DCP, which may take quite a few years to collect. So what we're saying today is we would seek for condition 4 to clarify that there would be an offset there if the owner does choose to do some roadworks, or otherwise have condition 5 to be clarified. We did say that the road upgrade is not a technical necessary requirement, as Heidi will explain, but after considering and after speaking with the city this morning, it may be more beneficial or have the client have the option of doing those works instead of paying the money through the DCP. So with that, I'd like to just put that forward. Otherwise, we're very happy with the balance of the recommendation and seek the DAP's approval of the project this afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you. Prior to having any questions of Mr. Heading, if the panel's happy, satisfied, then we could get Heidi Herget to make her presentation. Okay, Heidi, I'm not sure where you are. Would you like to make your presentation, please? Oh. Yeah, nice.
Can you hear me?
We can hear you, yes. Can't see you.
Yeah, I'm going to start the video now. Sorry. Okay, hi. Good afternoon, members of the panel and the city of Wanneroo. I've got a few short remarks in relation to condition 5, which I prepared the following response, and that's been forwarded to the panel. Warren Road is currently designated under the Main Roads Restricted Access Vehicle Network as a performance-based standard 2B1 standard tandem drive, and a tandem drive 6.1 concessional drive level 1, which is basically a RAV6, which allows for vehicles up to 36.5 meters in length with up to 85 tons in mass with conditions. That's not unusual. That's fairly typical to have a permitted road where you need to seek approval from the local government, which entail basically that all operators must carry written approval from the road manager. In this case, it's the city of Wanneroo, acknowledging the operator's use of the road, and then it's permitted over a certain section, which I believe is from Great Northern Highway to Mulakar Road, which is west of the site. This allows for vehicles up to the maximum design length, as noted previously, and in my TIA version 1 dated the 31st of October 2024. As noted in my report, the maximum number of these vehicles associated with the proposal will be in the order of 3 to 4 vehicles on a daily basis, and this is the maximum size vehicle. The existing road network and heavy vehicle classification for both Warren Road, which is the subject of this condition, and Great Northern Highway allow for proposed RAV 6.1 and PBS 2B.1 maximum size of vehicles, both of which exceed the maximum size of the vehicles that the applicant is proposing to access and egress the site. So under the existing conditions, if someone was operating some sort of development that wasn't subject to any kind of approvals mechanism, they would be allowed to be, these vehicles would be allowed to travel on that road. The requirement for pavement testing as per condition 5, in my opinion, is neither reasonable or feasible in the context of the existing approved vehicle classification or in the context of the maximum demand associated with this proposal on the road section between Warren Road and west of Great Northern Highway. It is corner block, and the crossovers are just within, 100 meters or so of the intersection. It's a dead end road presently. We've done a swept path analysis, and there's been no issues raised in terms of being able to maneuver in and out from the higher order road network or into and out of the crossovers. And at present, it's in my opinion, I don't believe that these works are required or warranted. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Panel members, any questions of either Mr. Hidding or Ms. Hergert?
Yes, I have a
Yes,
question. It's
Francesca.
to Heidi Hergert. Heidi, it's Francesca Elefanti here. Could you just, and you've spoken a bit about it, can you just go over a little bit more detail, please, for me, specifically the issue of the vehicle size and your comments about the road is capable of taking, it's currently classified for taking the vehicle size, and particularly your comments about condition of road. So what I'm trying to get at is, as I understand you're saying, and if you could clarify this, the road condition is currently suitable without impact on the proposed vehicles for this application. Is that what you're saying?
Okay, what I'm saying is at present, that section of road that is the subject of this condition is already classified to carry vehicles up to 36.5 meters in length, which is actually exceeds the maximum design vehicle our client proposes to actually access into and out of the site. So the road network along the northern boundary of the site, namely Warren Road, where the vehicles would be coming in and out of, is already classified under the restricted access vehicle network by Main Roads to carry these types of vehicles. So currently those vehicles are already currently allowed to travel on the road. It's not that there's no proposal to upgrade or change the restricted access vehicle classification. Our client has advised us that they're typically going to have a maximum size B doubles, which typically would be in the order of about 28 meters long, which is lower than the maximum size vehicle that is can currently be carried on the road.
Thank you.
Any further questions? Yes, Karen.
Thank you. This is to Mr. Hidding, Karen Hyde speaking. Having heard from Ms. Hergert, can you then clarify for us whether your client or the developer that you are representing actually wishes to carry out some road improvements? What I was hearing from you when you made your presentation was that perhaps it would be better if some improvement needed to be made for you as the applicant here to conduct those works, notwithstanding that from a technical point of view, the capacity and so forth of the road is adequate. But did you see that there was any need for improvement?
That's right, and that's what we had been considering during the course of last week was there's no technical requirement, as Heidi explains, for the upgrade, but considering that there's going to be quite an expensive developer contribution payment required, which might sit with the city for a long time, perhaps it's better for the owner to have the choice, I guess, to, and since the city has raised that it might be a good idea to upgrade the road, we're saying it's not necessary, but it might just be a good idea to have the option. So if the conditions can be adjusted somewhat, that if the owner undertakes or wants to upgrade the road, not saying that we need to, but if there's a choice there that they want to do, that amount gets offset against the DCP requirement.
Yeah, I understand the latter part. I just wanted to check if you felt that it might be in your interest to upgrade the road in any case. So thank you for that answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions?
Yes, I have a question which is a direct follow-on to Nick as well. It's directly related to the first part of your question. My question is, what is the owner's rationale for upgrading a road, given your comments that there's not a technical requirement and it's not necessary? So could you explain a bit further why, under the scenario you've put forward, they would be offering to upgrade a road that they say, or that the comments we've heard today and in the material says it's not technically required or necessary?
Yeah, thank you for the question. It's really because of the fact that they have to pay the DCP amount anyway for infrastructure and road upgrades in the precinct. And that, I understand it's in the millions, but they may have to contribute, or that comes from the owner. We are saying that it's not necessary, and that's what Heidi's put forward. But because we have to pay the money anyway, maybe, and this is for the owner to make a decision on during detailed design in the coming months, and it hasn't been fully resolved yet, is that if they choose to go, okay, look, instead of writing a check and having those funds sit with the city for a number of years, waiting for others to also contribute, can they have the option, and it will be beneficial to have a road upgrade. I mean, to have a road upgrade is good, but we're not saying it's necessary. But if there's the opportunity for them to actually spend money and get it physically done sooner rather than later, that benefits everybody as well, rather than having the funds sit with the city for a number of years. I hope that clarifies it a bit for you.
Yes, it does. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you. Councillor.
Thank you, through the chair, Councillor Charlie Zanino. I'm kind of a little bit confused because I think it was Miss Heading that made the comment that Warren Road is already capable of carrying the proposed traffic. So has a test already been done, or if what you say is correct, that it's already approved to carry this sort of traffic, then obviously you wouldn't have a problem having a new test, because obviously the test would come out positive. Yeah, I'm kind of confused with regards to that part of it.
Yeah, look, I'll try to explain a little bit further. Under the DCP, which is the Developer Contribution Plan, Warren Road is going to be upgraded for the precincts. More generally, it's going to be widened. We have to give up 5 metres of our land as well, which this development allows for. So there will be a road upgrade in this area in future. It may take years to come about. So we might be able to bring that forward because our client has to spend the money through the DCP anyway. But certainly through the testing, it may not be a requirement to actually do it.
Right. Thank you.
Okay. I suppose my question is also to do with that. If I realise you've got to make the DCP contribution or development contribution, the road network, what guarantee is there that the vehicle sizes that you've said are proposed to go to the site in fact do? And what guarantee is there that larger vehicles don't go in there? Having said that, I presume larger vehicles can go in there that aren't tied up with this site. Heidi, have you got a comment on that?
Yeah, that's actually correct. Vehicles that are larger than the types of vehicles our clients advised us that will be accessing the site, up to 36.5 meters, that are not associated at all whatsoever with the future operations here, yes, are in fact allowed to use this road.
Okay, thank you.
And there's no volume restrictions or anything like that. So
other than if they want to exceed the maximum, they have to get a permit.
tonnage.
Yes.
Well, no, they have to get a permit anyways, just to make sure that they actually comply with the main roads classification, in that they're no longer than 36.5 meters, and they don't weigh more. The mass isn't more than 85 tons. But that's just a simple process. They get a permit, and it's sort of an indefinite permit for the operator to use that road.
Okay, thank you.
All
right,
yeah.
I don't have any further questions. Francesca? Yes.
I have one question specifically to yourself, Nick. I understand from the material I've got here that based on the floor plan, there are 3 office tenancies separated out from with access points from a part of the building. They're referred to as tenancies 1, 2 and 3 with incidental office admin. The documentation talks about the structure of the operations. Can you confirm that those tenancies are connected to the industrial activities associated with the site?
Yes, I can confirm that. So the business operator has other arms of the business that are located elsewhere at the moment, but may in future locate here. And so we're building in that opportunity for them to consolidate really at this location, spend a significant amount of money investment to this site, but they're directly associated with the industrial components of the main use of the premises. Yeah, and then their admin will go in there as a separate arm of the business. Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you. Further questions of the presenters? If not, I'll open up for panel members to have questions answered by the council staff. Karen, yes.
Thank you. Really just some commentary from city staff on the conversation that they've just overheard, and Mr. Hidding's proposal, and in the context of Ms. Ergert's presentation, some clarification around how you foresee this changing some of the currently recommended conditions for approval.
Through you, presiding member, I apologise. The city's camera is not working at the moment without a computer restart, so you'll just be looking at our blank screen. So sorry again for that. In regards to conditions 4 and 5, Wanneroo is currently conditioned as RAB 6. It's usually approved for businesses or areas where they are doing a short movement irregularly. That's what's been happening over the last few years. It's been in place for a long time. If it was assessed now against the safety standards, in considering what's going to be proposed based on this development, yet alone future developments, it's lucky to achieve a RAB 6, notwithstanding the applicant proposes the odd RAB 7 movement as well, which is a greater weight per their assessment or per their application. So if they need to upgrade, they will need to confirm with Main Roads WA that one RAB 7 access on the road as it currently stands in the current condition can be done without upgrading, and through the testing of the pavement as requested by the city, should that demonstrate that the road can be accommodated for the RAB 6 proposed as well as the infrequent RAB 7, then the city is happy to leave the road as it stands. However, based on the condition of the road, viewing it, it's likely that an upgrade would be required. However, where we discussed with the applicant before, noting there is a DCP requirement paid, which contributes towards the upgrading of Wanneroo, the suggestion was they construct pavement section of Wanneroo for that 700 odd metres to their crossover to the final DCP specification, which then achieves the upgraded road to accommodate RAB 7, along with addressing some of those DCP requirements, which down the track could be offset, which can be discussed at a later date.
So is it your position that the upgrades to the Warren Road pavement are still a requirement associated with this application, but that you are comfortable with any works carried out being considered a contribution towards those development infrastructure requirements under the scheme? My reading of where the applicant was coming from was that they did not believe that the works were necessarily associated with this development, but they would be considering the possibility of doing those upgrades in order to bring forward those works which are perhaps already scheduled in the DCP as a result of the wider intensification of the industrial area.
Yeah, so the road as it stands currently, as I mentioned previously, was unlikely to meet a current standard RAB 6. However, noting the use of the road is presently allowing for RAB 6, the city acknowledged that the frequent movements of RAB 6 once this development's approved with the infrequent RAB 7 movement, which will put a greater strain on the current RAB 6 road, is likely to need upgrading. However, without knowing the details of the road spec as it stood during the assessment, we've decided to go down the condition route to have the applicant or landowner demonstrate that the road can either handle the RAB 6 as it currently stands, but if not, to upgrade the road to a RAB 7 spec or whatever spec is required for the development. Now, the difference between a RAB 7 spec of the pavement and the DCP spec is a slightly higher specification of road. So instead of having the applicant resurface Warren Road to a spec just required for the development, they may as well reconstruct the road at a slightly higher level, which is the DCP spec, which then allows them the opportunity to claim an offset in due course and actually get a refund potentially in lieu of having to do the road twice in the option where they're going to try and achieve RAB 7 level.
Right. So is it your position then that you would prefer to see the wording of condition 5 remain, but to add some wording to condition 4, which takes account of any of those works as a contribution towards the DCP, or have I misunderstood you?
No, that's fine. I think in any event, if the applicant works with the city to construct Warren Road to a level which is DCP spec, there wouldn't be an issue in those works being dealt with through an offset to address condition 4 at a later stage. The city does this in numerous instances throughout the city under separate DCP documents. So this will be no different here. However, if the panel wishes to include some wording on condition 4, then the city's open to that as well.
All right, thank you.
Can I just extend that question specifically? Listening to what has been said today and the questions, condition 4 indicates that the landowner applicant contributing towards a development. From what I'm hearing, you're saying that's acceptable provided that the works are to the DCP specifications. Is that correct?
So condition 4 is for the developer contributions, and that could be for infrastructure, drainage, stormwater, everything required for the structure plan area, which includes the road upgrade of Warren Road. However, because of what the applicant's proposing on this development site, they may need to upgrade the road just to accommodate what they're proposing as part of the development application, where that might be in between what the DCP spec is and what the road is currently. So we thought instead of having the applicant pay twice to upgrade the road only to the spec they need for their development, they may as well spec it a little bit higher to a DCP level, which then means they've built the road to the required standard, satisfying condition 5, whilst also partially satisfying condition 4, noting that that road upgrade to DCP spec will be considered through an offset once addressing the final amount owed.
Yes, I understand that. So, given your comments, if the words on condition 4 included, it says towards development infrastructure, noting all the elements that form the development infrastructure, including upgrades to Warren Road, provisions pursuant to the City of Swan Local Planning Scheme 7, but being quite specific in the language of that condition, which is that the contribution or works needs to be to the DCP specification if they are being brought forward ahead of the scheme, ahead of the program of works. It seems to me that your primary issue is that works being undertaken on the road as an offset contribution from the DCP requirements needs to be to the DCP specifications.
Not necessarily. So the level that we would want to see in order to just accommodate RAB 6 or the RAB 7 movements might not necessarily be the final spec of road required to be implemented through the DCP. However, the city, just in good faith working with the applicant, suggests that instead of spending $500,000 and putting a road just to the required level to meet their development needs and then have to pay the amount for DCP contribution, which includes requirements for upgrades to Warren Road, they could just spend a little bit more through the upgrading of Warren Road to the specification of the road element to what the DCP spec is, which then ticks the box on addressing those requirements of the DCP. Whereas if they only upgrade the road to a level just to accommodate RAB 7, nothing more, they may not be able to offset those works because it doesn't meet the DCP standard. So purely just to cover all bases there, I guess works with the applicant, it leaves the door open for them if they want to. They're welcome to just build it to the standard specification to accommodate RAB 6 or 7.
Thank you. So what would you suggest the language of condition 4 would need to incorporate to do exactly what you've just said, which I'm hearing as being the upgrade of Warren Road needs to be to the DCP specifications if or where the applicant is seeking for that to be part of the contribution or to be negotiated as part of their DCP contribution. So it's works and cash rather than just cash. So what I'm really asking is, what do you say that condition 4 could be altered to in terms of the wording to reflect what you've just said?
I think in the city's view, the condition would likely stand as it is, noting that it's not a requirement for them to build the road to DCP standard. It is only a requirement to make sure the road is at a standard which can accommodate the vehicle movements to their site. So by, I guess, restricting that condition to address those matters doesn't leave the door ajar at the point of when we're trying to negotiate an offset, if there is one. If the condition's worded to manage something specifically, the city normally leaves these conditions as open-ended as such, and then these elements can be discussed with the proponent at that point, because it comes down to what the proponent wishes to do. It depends if they want to just build the road to the standard required and leave it at that and pay a contribution, or pay a bit more on the road as construction and then deal with that through an offset. That's just a general procedural matter which we can deal with through the DCP program subsequently. So the city, in our view, should just leave the condition as is, and those elements can be addressed at a later stage with the proponent and the city.
Maybe, as you say, leave the condition as is, but in condition 5, where it says, should the test result leave the pavement inadequate, the landowner applicant is required to upgrade Warren Road from the westernmost crossover proposed at the subject site to the intersection of Great Northern Highway, with the wording added possibly as an offset against their development infrastructure contributions under City of Swan Town Planning 17 to the satisfaction of the City of Swan on advice from Main Roads. Would that provide the option?
That could be an option. However, it then restricts the applicant to having to construct it to DCP spec upfront. So the city has got a problem with that wording. It doesn't leave the door open for the applicant to simply construct at a spec which will address the development needs initially. They're basically addressing the DCP required upgrade upfront, which is not necessarily a requirement on the applicant's.
It does say to the satisfaction of the City of Swan.
It can. So, and the city's requirement could be to ensure that it addresses the movements of the development, which would be up to RAB 7. But because the applicant will be liable for a payment, they're addressing the DCP required road upgrades through that channel in any event.
Well, I did say as an offset against their contribution, so they would do the upgrade.
Yeah, absolutely. That's accepted.
Karen, you
My other thought for the city's comment was some addition to condition 4, which might read after Swan Local Planning Scheme number 7, the words "and subject to any works and contributions made in connection with condition 5 were implemented to DCP standard." How does the city feel about that? See, what I'm thinking is that the applicant has specifically asked for some certainty and clarification. You know, if this occurs in 3 or 4 years' time and none of us in this room and round the table are here, they're looking for something that gives reasonably so certainty and clarity in the terms of the condition.
The city would be comfortable with that wording on condition 4.
Thank you.
Okay, I was just thinking that maybe condition 4 could read, prior to the lodgement of an occupancy permit, the landowner applicant contributing in kind or cash towards development infrastructure provision pursuant to the City of Swan Local Planning Scheme number 17. You said that that's allowed in previous parts, probably already agreement before it came to the panel.
Yes, of course.
That wording help? Well, we have to craft a condition, so we'll probably discuss that a bit further. Okay, councillor, yes.
The question is, would the applicant be happy with that amendment or modification?
Well, I would like the option, I think.
Yep.
Be happy or not. Okay. Mr. Heading, have you thought or crafted a condition?
I did put something on paper earlier that was very much along the lines of what Karen had put forward, that if the applicant conducts Warren Road upgrades to DCP level in respect of condition 5, then the relevant cost of that work will be credited against the developer contribution requirement to the satisfaction of the city. Something like that. With that, it gives the owner a bit of certainty that if they're going to spend the money, then that gets offset against what they required in condition 4. So something like that, I think would be happy with. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, if there's no further questions of the panel of the presenters or council staff, perhaps we can now go into debate on the item. In order to do so, I need a mover and a seconder. Do I have a mover for the recommendation as printed? Councillor Zanino. A seconder? Karen Hyde. Thank you. Councillor Zanino, speak to the item, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm quite comfortable with the report and the presentation as it stands. I mean, it's probably a great piece of infrastructure for the new industrial development area in Bullsbrook. There's no real objections to it. It was put out for public comment, and there was only one submission, and I think the only problems that were put forward was possibly noise and visual, but I think that's been covered by the proposed fencing. There's obviously more than adequate parking. The only problem that may be perceived is the conditions 4 and 5. But I'm happy to incorporate an amendment to condition 4 or 5 along the lines of what Member Hyde had put forward.
Okay.
I'll talk in general terms and then come to an amending motion. But first of all, I'm in support of the development. There's no objection when advertised. There were a few concerns, as the mover, Councillor Zanino, has said, to do with vehicle noise, but they've been mitigated through acoustic walling. The visual amenity has been covered by the landscape screening. It fits within the planning framework, both within the scheme and also within the structure plan. As a P use, I do find that the description of the office and its intended use and function is incidental and subordinate to the main industrial use. Signage is integrated into the design, and it has been reviewed and supported by the city's design review panel. No other safety issues have come to light. And I do note that within the landscape plan, there's good tree cover and canopy cover within the car park. However, following our discussion, I would suggest an amendment to condition 4. And I think it is adding adding some phrasing to the current condition 4, which follows from Swan Local Planning Scheme number 7, words such as, and subject to any works and contributions made in connection with condition 5, the upgrades to Warren Road were designed, constructed and certified to the DCP standard to the satisfaction of the City of Swan.
Okay. Motion 1. So yes, I'm just trying to get my head around the wording still, but anyway, we'll have a seconder. Thank you. Karen, please speak to Amendment 1.
Thank you, Presiding Member. Look, having listened to everybody's discussion, I think that this amending motion provides the applicant with the certainty that is required rather than an open-ended condition 4. I think that the applicant themselves through condition 5 have still the option of how they would seek to upgrade that road, and having listened to their presentation, they are of a mind to bring those works forward to a satisfactory standard early in the implementation process. The option still rests with them should they choose to elevate those works to the development contribution plan standard, that could be an offset or accounted for within their overall burden within the DCP. So I think those amendments to condition 4 actually provide all parties with an outcome that they can work towards, provide some clarity and certainty. Thank you.
Okay, Francesca.
Yes, I support Amendment 1 to modify condition 4. The agreement, it seems to be clear from both the city officers as well as the applicant that bringing forward DCP works, provided they are constructed to the standard of the DCP as considered acceptable by the City of Swan, is a beneficial solution. And this language is attempting to provide clarity in that space as well as certainty, but also to provide the requirement that they are to the DCP standard, not just standard for the development, in order to be considered for offset in relation to contribution.
Thank you. Anyone else? Councillor, you wish to speak to that amendment?
No, I actually support what's been said and what's been put forward.
Okay, I don't wish to add anything further, so I'll put the amendment. All in favour? That's unanimous. Thank you. Karen, are you still
Nothing
speaking?
further from me,
Okay.
thank you.
Francesca, you wish to speak to the item?
Substantive motion. The proposal is a good development in this particular site. It is consistent with the planning framework, DCP 2 and LPS 17, I beg your pardon, and the structure plan for the area. The changes that are proposed are appropriate from my perspective, particularly in relation to the modified condition, to facilitate both the development in the area, bring forward works that would be beneficial to the area development, and the realisation of the continued development of the site and area. I'm satisfied that the proposed development and its associated design treatments is appropriate in this particular location, and that any amenity issues have been appropriately mitigated. It'll be good to see the new section of works occurring.
Thank you. I too support the recommendation as amended. I would like to move a second amendment. That is to condition number 25. The approval for the effluent disposal system as written requires approval by the City of Swan Health Services and Department of Health. I would like to move an amendment to delete the words "and the Department of Health" of condition 25 for the reason that we can't rely on a third party to approve that. And in questioning perhaps if the council staff can just clarify, in getting approval by the City of Swan Health Services to effluent disposal system, does that automatically get approval from the Department of Health? Council staff?
Yeah, thanks, presiding member. It comes down to the type of development and the type of effluent disposal system. From what I understand, certain developments trigger the need for a separate Department of Health approval. Nevertheless, it needs to be submitted through the City of Swan and then forwarded through to the Department of Health, from my understanding. So if it's to the satisfaction of the city, that should still capture in any requirements from the Department of Health in that. So open to wording either or, but I can't confirm exactly there, sorry.
Maybe on advice from the Department of Health. So I'll amend the amendment and say that to be submitted and approved by the City of Swan Health Services on advice from the Department of Health. So that's okay, seconded. That won't go into any reason. Does anyone else wish to speak to the amendment?
Happy to support.
Okay, thank you. All right, then I'll put that second amendment. All in favour? Yes, thank you. And just getting back to the substantive motion, like Francesca, I think it's a great development to open up that particular Ballsbrook industrial area. It's spent a lot of time and money over the years from the authorities and landowners to get to the point where development is starting to result from all those previous studies and infrastructure contribution plans. So it's good to see this going ahead. In terms of conditions 4 and 5, if the pavement testing occurs and it's minimal upgrade required, then the proponents have got the option of undertaking some minimal works, or if there's substantive works, undertaking them in accordance with Scheme 17 infrastructure contribution requirements. Therefore, I'll put the item back to the mover to close debate.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. No, happy to move the approval and incorporate the amendment. I think this is a great development, worthy of approval, and hopefully it can be seen as a catalyst to encouraging further development in this new industrial area.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Zanino. I'll put the item then. All those in favour as amended? 4 in favour, and that's unanimous. Thank you very much. Next item on the agenda, item 4, Form 2 DAP applications, there are none. Item 5, Section 31 SAT reconsideration, there are none. Part D, other business. Item 1, SAT applications and Supreme Court appeals. They are listed, or that is listed. Item 2, closure of meeting at 2:16 p.m. Thank you for participants and panel members. Thank you.
Thank you.